Your bomb.
Israel's enemies are America's enemies. That's one reason polls show an overwhelming majority of Americans support the Jewish state. Given Iran's nuclear ambitions, that support has never been more critical. And as Eric Stakelback reports, Israel's new voice in Washington wants to grow his country's relationship with one of its strongest allies, Christians.
If you think what happens in the Middle East does not affect America, think again.
Iran is building ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles. They're not building it for Israel. Their missiles can already reach Israel.
The target, says Israel's new ambassador to the U.S., is America.
How is this Iran nuclear threat not just an Israel problem? How is it a problem for America as well?
Well, because we're the little Satan. To Iran, you're the great Satan. And the only thing you put on an ICBM is a nuclear warhead. That's it. And they're designed to propel and to be sent thousands of miles across the ocean to try to reach you.
Ron Dermer is uniquely positioned to speak to Americans. Although an Israeli citizen, Dermer was born and raised in the United States. His father and brother both served as mayor of Miami Beach, and Dermer attended the University of Pennsylvania.
My whole belief system is based on being raised in this country. You know, when I think of courage, I think of Normandy, because I was born and raised as an American. And when I think of justice, I think of Martin Luther King Jr.
He moved to Israel in the 1990s and rose to become Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's closest advisor. Yet Dermer told CBN News he still speaks American, a trait that will come in handy as he tries to convince Americans about Iran's true danger.
Iran is the foremost sponsor of terrorism in the world. In the last 3 years alone, they have perpetrated terror attacks in 25 countries on 5 continents. You do not want to give the foremost sponsor of terrorism in the world, you don't want them anywhere close to nuclear weapons, because then you could find those weapons in a theater very close to you.
According to Dermer, the only way to stop Iran's nuclear weapons program comes through crippling sanctions and a credible military threat. As Israel's ambassador, he must make that case directly to the White House. President Obama opposes new sanctions and is committed to dialogue and diplomacy with the Iranian regime.
The only way that this regime in Iran will give up their nuclear weapons program is if they're faced between a choice of the survival of the regime and the weapons program. If that's the choice that Iran faces, then they'll give up the program. If they don't face that choice, they will not give up the program.
In facing Iran and other threats, Dermer says Israel has no greater ally than American Christians.
How important is that Christian support as we move into some pretty perilous times?
I believe that the Christian community of the United States, the tens of millions of Christians, of evangelical Christians throughout this country, can stand shoulder to shoulder with Israel, beat back any attempts to delegitimize, to libel, to malign Israel.
That's one reason Ambassador Dermer says he's looking to strengthen that partnership.
I think in the relationship between Christians and the State of Israel, we have only scratched the surface. There's a lot more to come.
Eric Stakelbeck, CBN News, Washington.